Earlier today, Toronto FC announced the firing of Bob Bradley. This is something we have been talking about for some time because it hasn't been the best of seasons for Toronto FC. 3-10-7 this year. Under Bob Bradley's tenure in all competitions, 14, 26, and 19, Jordo. We wondered if this day would come, just simply because of the record and also because of, recent news reportings that players were not happy with how he was coaching them. Federico Bernardeschi, as we know, has been the most vocal of players in saying that he felt like they weren't prepared, that they didn't have tactics, that could set them up for success. So now he has been relieved of his duties. How much do you think he should shoulder the blame for what's happened to TFC?
I think he should shoulder a lot of it. I can't say all of it because I think how a club is run is also higher up. It's not just a coach. But I think the part that he needs to shoulder is I think he lost the dressing room. And I think there are so many details that go into that in terms of squad selection, how you're with them day to day, how you treat certain situations. We talked about Bernardeschi a few weeks ago. I think that in that regard, if he was going to look back on things, he would have wanted done better. And yeah, I think that's it. If you lose the dressing room, you lose the guys, you lose the team inevitably. And then it's just an uphill battle from there. How do you feel about it?
I've always said the head coach is an ultimate salesman. And you're right. The players have to continue buying what it is that you're selling in order for you to be successful. And the second they stop buying it, that's it. You're done. Players will always ultimately decide what happens with a coach. And I think if you look back, there are so many things you can say, all right, he did that well. And then, of course, there are other things you can turn back and say, well, no, that was not good at all. But I know a lot of people are going to obviously point to the Italians because the Italians, they're making a lot of money. And they are superstars, and they do need to be managed. And we had Josh Cloke on and he wrote that article, of course, with a couple other people from The Athletic, and it just went and described a difficult situation, I think, in trying to make the Italians happy. But I will say this, because a lot of people right now, I'm reading some comments, and they say, of course you had to get rid of Bob because he ended up benching, Bernardeschi, for speaking out against him, and, how could you do that? They won that game.
Yeah.
So you can sit here and say that wasn't the right move. No, it was actually the right move.
In that moment.
In that moment, it was the right move because TFC responded and they came out with the win. And in fact, they went on a bit of an unbeaten streak as well, even though they brought him in the next game. I wonder, they're coming off a loss, New England Revolution. Bernardeschi came off at halftime. He wasn't performing again in that first half. So there's a lot of things I think that you could look at Bob and go, he was put between a rock and a hard place. And to your point, a lot of decisions, personnel decisions have been made by Bill Manning. He brought players on board. Bob brought players on board too.
Yes.
So you can make the argument that they both just didn't bring in the right players to mesh. You've spent a lot of money on the Italians to the point now where you probably can't keep Richie Larea. Bob was dealt a bad hand with a lot of injuries. A lot of injuries. And this team is built on national team players, which is great, but now you're losing them during Nations League, Gold Cup, right? These guys are now gone from your lineup. So there's so many things you can look at and say worked against him, he did to himself. Worked against him, he did to himself.
For sure. This team was imbalanced from the beginning of the season. We've said this. It's obvious. It's glaring. If you're looking at other teams in the MLS or just in teams in general in the modern day, you need that balance of vets that could still go, but young players that are coming up and emerging. What's going on at TFC, the balance is completely off. Then I think as a manager, you're a salesman, but you're also the motivator. Every day on the road, at home, after a loss, when there's a tough spell, you have to be able to get guys to play and be their best self. And you can see for a long time with TFC that hasn't been the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. The players now, and in particular, again, I'm just going to say Bernardeschi because he was the most vocal. He was the catalyst behind everyone talking about this and then, the article coming out with The Athletic. This is where, as a player, if you're going to say the coach is the reason why we're not performing, well, now the coach is gone. You better perform. No, if you're saying that the coach is the reason why you weren't performing, the coach is now gone. If you continue to not perform, this is a smart fan base. They're going to start putting two and two together. And I will speak to my fellow Italian fan base. Italians will defend Italians to the death. And there are a lot of Italians out there who did not like Bob Bradley because of how the season was going, but also the treatment of Bernardeschi. But I gotta say this.
With an Italian accent, by the way.
If Lorenzo and Federico don't start performing, you gotta just use your eyes a little bit and realize where the problem is. I hope they turn things around, but at the end of the day, Lorenzo's been injured a lot. He has 9 goals in 24 games. Federico, if you look at his past, he's not really relied upon to score a lot of goals. You look at his time with Juventus, but either way, 11 goals in 32 games. Like, they're gonna have to pick it up a little bit here. They're going to have to pick it up. Federico had a lot of chances in that first half and couldn't find the back of the net against New England Revolution. But this is all I'm saying is you as players have every right to say, I don't like this coach and I don't feel like I'm working and I'm jiving with him. But just understand that once the coach is gone, and that was the reason why you gave as to why you're not performing.
Agreed.
That obstacle's now out of the way.
Agreed. Specifically as well for Bernardeschi, because he's a guy that has to come in, and before you could see that he wasn't vibing with Bob. Whoever's coming in next, we know who's coming in next.
Let's talk about that, shall we?
Whoever's coming in next, I think they just need to have a nice big barbecue. Just lay it all out, okay? If you guys need someone to cook, I know someone who can cook really well. That's Andy Petrillo. You can go have the potato salad, whatever you want to get. They need to just get on the same page. No tiers, no superstars, not the Italians and the young guys. Just get TFC. If you wear the badge, get everyone on the same page. Try to get the most out of these guys.
Can Terry Dunfield do that? That's right, because I'm assuming it's going to be former One Soccer analyst, is now the interim head coach of Toronto FC. This, in some ways, you're kind of looking at it going, oh, they kind of came out of left field. But I guess in other ways, it doesn't surprise me. Only because Bill Manning has been very vocal as well in saying that, working towards the 2026 World Cup, he made it his mission to bring as many Canadians on board as well, Canadian national team players. He really wanted to build towards a home World Cup, right? This is why we have the likes of Richie Larea, Marc-Anthony Kaye, Jonathan Osorio. Like, he was really making an effort as well to kind of keep a core of Canadian nationals. Terry Dunfield has 14 caps for Canada. Terry Dunfield is a former Red. He played for Toronto FC for a few years. He's the U17 coach right now in their academy, and he's been named on an interim basis. It just doesn't surprise me that he would name somebody who is already in their academy, but is a former player, understands the culture with Toronto FC, and also represented Canada on the international stage. Just doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't. It makes sense from that standpoint in terms of someone who knows the cultures and the fabric of the culture, played for the Reds. I've been around the U17, but let's talk about that jump. Because seeing Terry around, coaching U17s, guys that aspire to play professionally, different gravy when you're with the big dogs, when you're looking at Bernardeschi and Insigne. And also this TFC side that has been struggling. It's been dour for a while. So I'm curious. I'd love to pick Terry's brain about what is his game plan going in. Are you gonna, because he, for me, when I talk to him, is just very light, jovial. He's not coming in laying down the law, but we might need someone if this TFC team is going to be successful. And I think the ultimate goal is making playoffs and kind of going for a run. You need someone to maybe lay down the law. Are you going to have someone on your coaching staff do that and you be the nice guy? Are you going to be the bad cop? Are you going to have a bit of a blend? I'm just curious because you need some reaction now. You can't wait a month. TFC needs to turn it around now. So I'm wondering what Terry's going to do with that.
Well, we know that Bill Manning will be giving a presser I think he's going to actually be giving one on Tuesday. And that's the question I have. Have you named Terry an interim coach because you just want to get through the rest of the season, or do you fully believe this is somebody who's going to come on in and turn things around? Like, what is the objective here? I would like to think that it's about turning things around. So now we'll see what Terry can do. You're right. It's always a good cop, bad cop. And it's about, again, it's about managing. For me, it's about managing the two Italians. They are the highest paid players. They are the superstars. They are the ones, although Lorenzo has said that he has been happy. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. That's what he has said publicly. He's actually been okay with Bob. If the player's going to say it, the player's going to say it. Federico's been the most vocal at not being happy. You have to turn things around for them.
But you know what the interesting part is, Trills, about being the interim manager? You're caught in that in-between stage. Yeah, maybe they're not thinking about a long-term future with you, but what if TFC and what if Terry has a winning record and starts getting the most out of players? And that's what you think with a manager. If he can do that, then Bill Manning, people that are up top in the office saying, hey, well, Terry's done a good job. It's that nice sweet spot. If you go in, you're a manager and you're a head coach, immediately there has to be product. Interim, It's like, just make it a bit better than it was before. Show us a bit of hope. So if Terry can do that, maybe this is a permanent thing. I'm throwing it out there. If you have a good winning season, get TFC to playoffs, because we talked about this in the beginning of the season. Can TFC make playoffs? Do they have enough depth within this team? Is the balance right? All these things. But if you could see a winning record, I'm like, well, why not?
Well, that's the thing. We'll have to wait and see. That's the beauty of, I guess, having the interim tag attached to head coach. But I wonder if Toronto FC's done. I don't know if, so we keep talking about making the Italians happy, finding a way to turn things around for them. But with this change in coach, do you think Bill Manning is also turning around going, maybe we should still try and trade one? Like maybe he's also looking at the room and realizing more change needs to be made. The coach, it wasn't a winning record. To your point, we said this, when you lose the players, whether you're a good guy or not,
yes,
whether you're a good coach or not, it doesn't matter. If you've lost the players, you've lost the players. But I wonder if Bill Manning is also looking at that room going, you know what? You've also been a problem, and you've also been a problem. And by the way, we need to move guys if we want to keep Richie Laryea.
Hello.
Hi.
He's probably, for me, the most important player.
We need to talk more. I know we've been mentioning this. We need to talk more about this. TFC ain't got no money. They ain't got no money. How are you going to keep Richie Laryea if you ain't got no money? So you have to make moves. So I just wonder, do you think they're done, or do you think this is it?
What I'll say is they're on the thinnest possible ice there is. So thin that if you're walking on it, there's still like you feel a little water, you feel a little puddle.
cracking.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Okay, it's silly. I don't know why I ever did that by the pond by my house. Anyways.
Because it's fun.
It is fun.
Daring.
It's just like, but like if you actually go through, you're finished. Anyways. But they're on the thinnest ice because now it's like Bob's gone. You're looking at Italians that have so much money. I don't want to get into it, but so much
that
money.
That matters in sports.
100%.
You always get judged by your contract, whether you like it or not. Yes.
So they have to come clutch. This is the time. And I want to see what Terry can get out of them if it can work out.
We could go on and on forever because this has just been a saga, right? Because these are also Lorenzo Insigne, highest paid player in MLS history. And I just don't know if we're going to be having a conversation down the road of, biggest bust ever in MLS as well.